Hello, my name is Darlene Young, and I am in the Academy at the Interdenominational Theological Center in Atlanta, Georgia. My capstone project is at Miles College in Fairfield, Alabama. Dr. Bobby Knight is the president, and my site supervisor is Dr. Michael D. Wells. The topic that I will be addressing is the effects of Afrocentric pedagogy on identity and spiritual awareness among students at Miles College. Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way they should go. Even when he or she is old, they will not depart from it. The reason why I chose this subject is I believe learning environments, teachers, and curricula are vital in the developmental stages of one's identity and self esteem. To train a child is to nurture, to guide, to impart wisdom and knowledge. My interest in this topic is a concerned educator who desires for more Black students to be purpose driven and successful as opposed to a statistic of failure. Sankofa is an Atrinka symbol of a bird that means to go back and fetch that which was left behind. Miles College models this wisdom of Sankofa in education because in 1898, African Americans received minimal or no chance of receiving an education by faith. Its roots were established from the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. Today, Miles College is a light that brings hope to a community that is marginalized. Down through the years, they have recruited students who were undervalued in Eurocentric education that had great potential. Because of this trend, I am addressing the question, what are alternative ways that Afrocentric knowledge can be constructed and legitimized within various epistemological constructs?
Afrocentric school colleges are recovering the things we've talked about, our own heritage within the context of quote unquote this culture. And in fact, we're doing the same thing the Eurocentric school and colleges are doing for themselves. I mean, they have appropriated what I believe initially are African teachings, philosophy, theology, and they have inculturated into their own worldview. So when we say that we are, as we had this conversation, we are attempting to recover the foundations of what is called even Western culture in its African roots, especially as it pertains to the biblical text, although it has roots also from Greek and Roman philosophy, politics, etc. And so in that sense, we are doing something that's very natural and sane. I repeat, the better you know and understand your specific roots, whether you're Chinese, whether you are of other ethnicities who have their own particular histories, the more you do that, the stronger your own tradition is, the stronger you are. And in fact, the better you are in a way of speaking, communicating with others who are from a different tradition, because you're grounded, back to that rock in it. You're grounded in your tradition.
Okay, my experience with going to an HBCU was an amazing experience. It really showed me and taught me that Black is beautiful, and going there helped me embrace me and who I am and my culture. And I just learned to love myself more. I learned to love my natural hair more. I felt safe. I felt confident. I felt at home. It was just all in all amazing experience. Definitely wouldn't trade it for nothing. Definitely felt like I fit in. Never felt like an outsider. Never felt like I stuck out. So yeah, the HBU experience is amazing. I loved every single.
How you doing? My name is Keon Williams. I did attend a predominantly white institution here in downtown Brooklyn. It was a private school by the name of St. Francis College. And the things that stuck out with me as just being a black man in a white dominant school was the topics we discussed in some of the current event classes that we have to speak about current events. And during the time I was going to college there, you had the Black Lives Matters going on. You had the media highlighting how police were shooting unarmed black men, and there was a lot of tension at the time at our school where we had open topics and open discussions. And one thing that resonated with me throughout these conversations with my peers were it was no one really that could, well, not really no one. It was very few that can correlate with me and understand what it felt like to be a black person in America, and the obstacles and the things we have to overcome to get in a situation to be in the same room with others. And
The mission of Miles College is to motivate and prepare students through committed faculty to seek knowledge that leads to intellectual and civic empowerment. To pursue knowledge is a biblical principle because Proverbs 2:6 says, "For the Lord gives wisdom. From God's mouth comes knowledge and understanding." Culturally, churches and schools are the foundation of identity and spiritual awareness for African American students to learn and understand the value of who they are. Miles College doors are open to any student, and their vicinity is a message that exemplifies Nelson Mandela's quote that says, "Education is the great engine of personal development. It is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that the son of a mine worker can become the head of the mine, that a child of farm workers can become the president of a great nation. It is what we make out of what we have, not what we are given, that separates one person from another." When you walk on the campus of Miles College and enter the buildings where classes are taught, you see the school's colors of purple and gold. There is a plethora of art and quotes that are from people of color, posted on bulletin boards and hall monitors. These visuals remind and allow students to see people who look like them that made great contributions to society. What they see is themselves, their culture, their identity, their stories being told, which is often minimized or left out of Eurocentric traditional history books. Psychologically, these images identify with who they are and have the potential to become. Hopefully, you were able to see from the video clip the 4 stages of Jane Bella's learning task. First, accountability. Students arrived at class and were engaged in the learning process. Second, learning task defined. A question was asked, "What is Judaism?" Responses were given. Third, the resources they needed. Instructions and visuals were provided on their Miles College iPad. And the fourth and final task, questions were asked by teachers and students. Of course, the teacher was myself. The teacher encouraged students to express their thoughts, and whatever answers were given, they were applauded for being correct and for taking courage to respond as the right answer was given. Tunde Adeleke, an African professor, believes Black people's focus should be on ethnicity in education and not identity, while Molife Asante, an American professor and philosopher, argued that Afrocentricity is a paradigm based on the idea that African people should reassert a sense of agency to achieve sanity. Moreover, Afrocentricity is dual because it relates to how African students and instructors perceive their identity. In a culture of Eurocentric hegemony, I contend that Afrocentric pedagogy in a Black school is an alternative for liberation of Black students' consciousness who have been psychologically affected in learning environments that do not connect to their history. In conclusion, the effectiveness of Afrocentric pedagogy at Miles College helps develop ethical values, self awareness, spiritual identity using education as an avenue through the community campus life and in the classrooms, bringing a consciousness of visual arts through academic teachings that allow students to see themselves. John 8:32, we shall know the truth, and the truth shall make us free. Education, as stated by Bell Hooks, is the practice of freedom. I believe freedom in education is revolutionary, and when viewed from a theological perspective, it builds and empowers students when they can see, learn, and know who they are through their lived experiences and stories in the community to pass on throughout humanity. To answer the question, what are alternative ways that Afrocentric knowledge can be constructed and legitimized within various epistemological constructs? For those in Fairfield, Alabama, I would say make inquiries about Miles College. They are committed to their mission of civic empowerment and using biblical principles as a guide. Finally, I observed Asante Mulefe's concept of Ubuntu, I am because we are, and eloquently stated by Miles College student Jerron Terrell Ross. He said, quote, we fail together and we succeed together. That's the special connection at Miles, having trust and a bond, end quote.
Now, before we get started, I want to make sure that each one of you have one of these cards. Do you have one of these cards? Good. So what we're going to do today to earn some points, I'm just going to randomly, as we talk about Judaism, ask you a question. If you get it right, then I want you to mark your score. Okay? So it's in lines like 1, 2, 3, 4, then put a line through it. That means 5 points. So the first question that I'm going to ask you is, how many of you are familiar with Judaism? Or from your reading, what do you know, or from what you've heard in general about Judaism? One of you said Christianity. That's correct. Be sure you mark that down on your card. Give yourself a point. Okay, another person said that you know that Judaism is Jews, and I think I heard Jews first. And that is also correct as well. Anything else? Okay, well, Judaism, do you all believe? Some of you may agree, some of you may disagree. But the one thing that I want to ask you is, how does, whether you in the Judaism tradition, in the traditional salvation, and the fact that God does all things good, tell me, how does this affect your life? How does this impact your life in some way?